Yorkshire now, the latest headlines from the region with Krista Ackroyd.
Hello, welcome to the Lunchtime News from Calendar this Wednesday, the 29th of April. The top stories in our region today. The Home Secretary investigates as a murderer issues a lawsuit from his prison cell. And a timely equaliser leaves the Blades playoffs hopes on a knife edge. But first, the Home Secretary said he's concerned as to how a murderer bombarded a postmistress with menacing calls from inside a prison and then tried to sue her. Her crime? She'd failed to send in the newspaper that he'd ordered. Denzil Walker was jailed for life for killing a backpacker 4 years ago in Lincolnshire. Dave Devonport reports.
Denzil Walker is behind bars, a convicted murderer. But it didn't stop him taking the woman who runs this village post office to court. She'd failed to get him a copy of the Financial Times. He then phoned her from inside Long Lartin prison in Worcestershire, where he's serving a life sentence. He demanded to know where the paper was and threatened her. Walker sued the postmistress at this county court, demanding £9.10, the price of the paper and the cost of the calls to find one. Walker's case was thrown out, but it's just the latest by an inmate.
Prisoners have a right to be treated fairly and decently when they're in prison. Of course they do. But I don't think they have a right to take very, very small action to a barrack room lawyer mentality at great public expense to the rest of us. They're in prison for wrongdoing. And when they're in prison, they do sacrifice some of their civil liberties. That's the nature of prison.
The Australian backpacker Julie Clayton was murdered by Walker. He tried to rape her before strangling and bludgeoning her to death. The body was dumped in a ditch at Colby in Lincolnshire. A judge recommended he serve at least 20 years, but the shopkeeper's ordeal began when she was unable to get Walker his paper because her supplier couldn't find one. The 64-year-old woman has condemned the legal system which allowed Walker to terrify her from behind bars.
David Devonport reporting. The head of the prison service is in our region this lunchtime to make a rather special award. Richard Tilt is at Wakefield Prison, which houses some of Britain's most dangerous criminals. The visit is to honour one of the prison guards there. It comes after a major breakout was thwarted. And I'm joined now by our reporter Michelle Hawkins, who's actually at the prison now. Michelle, what's been happening today?
Well, the Director General, Richard Tilt's been touring the jail, he's been meeting inmates, looking at workshops, but the main reason he's here is to present this commendation, this award, to one of the prison officers, Paul Fox.
So tell us about the presentation, when does it happen and who will be there?
Well, it's happening about now. It's only the third one of its kind that the Director General's made since he came into power in 1995. Basically, this prison officer foiled an escape attempt earlier this year. One of the inmates had managed to make a replica key and had actually opened one of the gates inside. Paul Fox spotted him, went back to his cell and took the key from him.
Now, at the time, how serious a threat to security was this viewed?
Well, it turned out that this inmate had actually made a whole bunch of replica keys. Now, there were other doors for him to get through. He'd only managed to unlock one. But obviously, if he'd proceeded, if he hadn't been spotted, the consequences could have been much more serious.
Michelle Hawkins, thank you very much for telling us all about it this lunchtime. Time for the rest of the day's news in brief.
Thanks very much, Krista. Welcome to the Calendar East News Desk. 2 toddlers are recovering in hospital today after surviving a car crash in which the driver, which is believed to be their mother, was killed. The accident happened on the A1605 Fakenham Road in Norfolk, and the car hit a bridge parapet. Police say the car rolled over and ended up on its side in a nearby river. The crash is being investigated and police are appealing for witnesses to contact them. The children, who are just 18 months and 3 years old, are suffering from shock. A man who was stabbed repeatedly by an attacker in his home is in a stable condition in hospital. David Stokes, who's 56, and his wife Jane, who also suffered cuts, were attacked at their home in Westbury Road in Humberston near Grimsby. The scene was cordoned off by detectives yesterday. A 30-year-old man who also suffered injuries has since been released from hospital and is now in custody at Grimsby Police Station. An inquest opens today into the death of police computer operator Kirsty Carver from East Yorkshire. The body of Kirsty, who was 22, was found at Spurn Point 5 weeks after she'd gone missing. Post-mortem has revealed she died from head injuries. The local man, Craig Belcher, who's 23, is remanded in custody charged with her murder. Delegation of former fishermen from Hull are travelling to London today as part of their 15-year fight to win compensation. The trawlermen set off early this morning, hopeful that their lobby of MPs will be successful. Men want payment because they received no redundancy when the industry collapsed in the 1970s following the Cod Wars. They also plan to hand in a 13,000 signature petition to Downing Street and hope the Labour government will be more sympathetic to their claim.
There was going to offer some compensation in 1976, but unfortunately before anything was put in place, the Tory government taken over. But nevertheless, this government has fully supported us whilst in opposition. The scream about injustices, well, this is a clear case now to put matters right for the ex-distant water trawlermen of Britain.
More than £250,000 is being spent on cameras to trap speeding motorists and stop crashes at accident black spots across Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire police say 80 people a year die in accidents. Now 8 new cameras will be put up to try and deter motorists from breaking the law. Finally, horse lovers in Lincolnshire have defended their claims that they have the tallest shy horse in Britain after a pony protection centre in London claimed their horse was bigger. Goliath, who lives at the Northcote Heavy Horse Centre near Spilsby, is more than 18 hands high. That's more than half an inch taller than his rival, say staff. The 21-year-old stallion costs around £75 a week to feed, but he is getting on a bit. Goliath suffers from arthritis and rheumatism put down to overwork in his youth and now has a special sling. That's it from Calendar East. Now let's rejoin Krista.